Coming up on the program today. Blast at a mosque in Pakistan leaves 32 people dead. Plus, the World Health Organization says COVID-19 remains a public health emergency. Welcome to the program. I'm Melissa Walker in Lagos. Pakistani authorities say at least 32 people have been killed, 150 more injured after a blast at a mosque in the city of Peshawar. People are said to be buried under the rubble as a section of the building was destroyed. Many of those who died were part of the police force, and it is believed they were the target of the attack.
The initial death toll of the blast was 28. The mosque, located close to a police housing block and had about 260 people inside when the blast occurred. Many of the casualties were police officers who'd gathered for daily prayers. One eyewitness said the blast happened during afternoon prayers, causing the two-story building to collapse. Footage showed a large crowd of people gathered around the mosque with piles of debris strewn on the ground and barrier tape cordoning them off. No one has claimed responsibility for the blast described by Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif as the city's worst since March last year. He released a statement saying the incident had nothing to do with Islam and that the entire nation is standing united against the menace of terrorism. The Pakistan Taliban are among groups that have carried out attacks in the past. They ended a ceasefire in November, and violence has been on the rise since.
At least 8 people have been shot dead after a mass shooting at a birthday party in South Africa's Eastern Cape province. 4 others were injured. Police says 2 unidentified gunmen randomly shot at guests who were dancing and mingling at a house party in KwaZulu Township. No arrests have been made, but a manhunt is underway. Those killed and injured have not been identified, but police said the owner of the attacked house was among them. South Africa has one of the highest gun crime rates in the world, but random mass shootings are uncommon. Last year, the country saw a string of shootings in separate taverns, which left more than 20 people dead. Those shootings are still under investigation. Welcome back. We'll take you to our earlier story. The Pakistan authorities saying that at least 32 people have been killed with 150 more injured after a blast at a mosque in the city of Peshawar. Joining us for more on that is VOA's Sarah Zaman. She joins us now. Welcome. Thanks for joining us. As with most attacks, there were no indications an attack was imminent, but what do we know at this very moment as to why Peshawar was targeted, the mosque there?
Thank you. So at this point, we do know that there had been intelligence reports that there was a suicide bomber that they should have been watching out for. And we also know that since the ceasefire ended with the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, also known as the Pakistani Taliban, the general KPK area, the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province area, of which Peshawar is the capital, that area has been a target of militant attacks, of deadly suicide attacks. So in a way, security was generally, the environment is such that there is now a higher probability of suicide attacks, and therefore forces have been on high alert. And this particular incident has happened in an area that is already under very high security because there are a lot of high-profile government buildings there. And so many are saying that this is a very serious breach of security because it would ideally have been nearly impossible for the suicide bomber to make his way to the mosque.
As to the question about the Prime Minister saying this was not about Islam, it was a mosque that was targeted.
Yeah, so the Prime Minister has in fact said that this is an attack on Pakistan. And even though this was a mosque that was attacked, the fact is that the TTP, Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, which is an ideological offshoot of the Afghan Taliban, it has claimed responsibility. And TTP has been targeting Pakistani police and security forces and paramilitary personnel. And the mosque that was attacked is in an area, again, where there is heavy police presence, and most of the people that were present in the mosque were indeed people belonging to police and security forces. So the target really were these people whose job is to protect Pakistan and whose job is to maintain law and order. And they are the people that TTP has been targeting continuously in its attacks.
Describe this attack as the worst since March last year.
Yes, this is the biggest attack of this year, exactly, because since TTP has ramped up its attacks, we saw some major operations by this militant group toward the end of last year, particularly some hostage situations. But at the beginning of this year, we have seen attacks. This is the biggest one. But it would be hard for me to recall if this is the biggest attack since last March. But yes, this has taken the biggest toll so far this year. And if my memory serves me right, this would be one of the biggest attacks, because even though TTP had been ramping up its attacks, we had not seen such a huge casualty number.
For the people there, how are they feeling at this time? It must be, a very sad, tragic moment for a lot of families that had families there at the mosque.
It's indeed a very tragic moment. The death toll has in fact risen to 48 by now, and there are still hundreds of people that are in hospitals. The rescue and search operation is still undergoing. There is an emergency in local hospitals in Peshawar area. Hospital authorities are asking people to come and donate blood. So it's a very tragic situation. And at the same time, security officers have been asked to ramp up their services, their activities, and nationally the mood is sad. We're seeing condemnation of this attack, and we're also seeing messages of support and sympathy coming from politicians from various parties of various political leanings.
And Sarah, I guess investigations are still ongoing.
Yes, investigation is still ongoing. The Prime Minister of Pakistan visited Peshawar, and so did the Interior Minister. High-profile investigation is underway. But as I said, there is already a picture that is circulating in the media sent by security officials that shows that there was a suicide bomber who authorities should have been keeping an eye on. And so now it remains to be seen how such a breach of security could happen.
We'll continue to look at the story as things develop. Thank you so much, VOA Sarah Zaman, joining us there. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Well, we're back in the UK. British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak today said he had acted pretty decisively by sacking Conservative Party Chair Nadhim Zahawi over his personal tax affairs, moving to quell criticism that he had acted too slowly. And the latest scandal to involve one of his ministers, and just months after he entered Downing Street, promising to lead with integrity, professionalism and accountability. Mr. Sunak has protested his innocence about Zahawi's tax affairs. He said he had moved quickly to sack Zahawi, who was briefly finance minister last year under former Prime Minister Boris Johnson, when his independent advisor ruled that the party chair had broken the rules guiding the behaviour of ministers. The opposition Labour Party has described Mr. Sunak as being too weak to deal with his party, which ousted two prime ministers last year over scandal and economic chaos. The Prime Minister now faces a challenge to appoint a new chair to the Conservative Party, a position made ever more important before an election widely expected next year. With the opposition Labour Party way ahead in the opinion polls, Conservative lawmakers already jockeying for position to take a role which could be crucial to the party's future.
Follow a process which is the right process. Integrity. What you can hold me accountable for is, look, what did you do about it? What I did as soon as I knew about the situation was appoint somebody independent, looked at it, got the advice, and then acted pretty decisively to move on, because that's what I think all of you deserve from me and from government. So look, on the second one, right, what I've done is follow a process which is the right process. Integrity is really important to me. All of you guys want to see that government's run properly, that it's run with integrity, and there's accountability when people don't behave in a way that they should, or when something doesn't go right, and that's what we've done. So we have an independent advisor. That's what the government has. So it's not it's not me who's doing it. And what I asked, when all these questions started coming to light about Nadhim Zahawi, I asked the independent advisor to get to the bottom of it and to provide me with the facts. And then on the basis of the facts, which he did relatively quickly over the course of last week, I was able to make a very quick decision that it was no longer appropriate for Nadhim Zahawi to continue in government, and that's why he's no longer there. The most important thing that I need to do for all of you right? Not just everyone working in the NHS, not just our nurses, but everyone in the country. The most important thing is to halve inflation, right? The thing that's going to make the biggest difference to all of your lives and everyone else's life, if by the end of this year, right, bills are not going up at the rate that they have been over the past year. Because that is the thing that is eating into all of your quality of life, all of your standard of living. That's the thing that says, great, I can't go on holiday this year, or I can't buy these presents, or I can't go out for this meal, I can't do any of these things, because everything is just going up and up and up. I've got to get a grip of that for all of you. It is the most important thing. And if we don't do that, we won't be able to afford anything.
Well, there is growing optimism in Britain and parts of the EU that a resolution is within reach to the long-running dispute over the Northern Ireland Protocol that has overshadowed their relations since the United Kingdom left the bloc 3 years ago. Technical talks between officials resumed October on the Northern Ireland Protocol, the part of the Brexit deal that mandated checks on some goods moving to the province from the rest of the United Kingdom. The Northern Ireland Protocol was a key part of the Brexit deal agreed by former Prime Minister Boris Johnson, but one that successive UK Prime Ministers have refused to implement. In order to preserve the peace deal and avoid a hard border between Ireland and the Northern Ireland, Britain agreed as part of its departure from the EU to effectively leave Northern Ireland within the bloc single market for goods. Now, that has necessitated checks from January 2021 on some goods coming from the rest of the United Kingdom. But the British government has sought to ease many of the trade barriers ever since the protocol came into effect, leading to accusations from the EU it was trying to backtrack on the protocol. Away from the United Kingdom, a fire has broken out at a Spanish settlement inhabited by hundreds of migrants working in agriculture in Spain's southeastern region of Almeria, as police were set to evict the camp. The cause of the blaze at the El Walili migrant camp near Niger, where mostly Moroccan sub-Saharan migrants lived in shacks, was unknown. The order to evict the migrants and demolish that camp had previously been issued by the Niger City Council on the grounds that the makeshift homes were unsafe and posed a fire and or electrocution risk and were in danger of collapsing and entrapping residents. The Right to Housing platform said in a statement that the eviction had forced El Walili residents to seek shelter in other less visible settlements in the area. The Niger City Council said it had prepared temporary accommodation for the camp dwellers at the emergency shelter and referral center. That's according to the regional media. And back home, the Nigeria leg of the largest multinational maritime exercise in Western and Central Africa has begun in Lagos on Nigeria's new landing ship, the NNS Kada. The exercise, in its 13th year, has grown from 9 participating countries to over 30. The Chief of Naval Staff, Vice Admiral Awo Zubairu Gambo, who was present at the ceremony, attributed the drastic reduction in maritime insecurity in the Gulf of Guinea to the exercise over the years.
It's a small restricted crowd aboard the NNS Kada, performing perhaps its first assignment on Nigerian waters since its return from a voyage to Guinea-Bissau in August last year. The special occasion is a flag-off ceremony of exercise Obangame Express 2023 at the Naval Dockyard in Lagos. Special guests are the Chief of Naval Staff, Vice Admiral Awo Zubairu Gambo, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Jeffrey Onyama, the U.S. Consul General in Lagos, Will Stevens, the Commander, U.S. Sixth Fleet, Vice Admiral Thomas Ishe, the Flag Officer Commanding of Nigeria's Western Naval Command, Rear Admiral Yakubu Wambai, senior naval officers, sister maritime agencies, and members of the diplomatic corps. The Chief of Naval Staff, while hailing the achievements of Obangame exercise over the years, says this year's events will not only further secure the Gulf of Guinea, but would contribute greatly to the African Union's Continental Free Trade Area Agreement.
The exercise is designed to improve regional collaboration through joint operations, intelligence sharing, and harmonized legal frameworks to enhance collective capabilities of Gulf of Guinea nations against maritime crimes. This year's exercise is particularly instructive considering efforts of the African Union at establishing and operationalizing regional task forces. This will no doubt enhance the African Continental Free Trade Agreement as well as development of sustainable blue economy, which of course is the future of the world.
The Minister of Foreign Affairs reiterated the knock-on effect of maritime security on Nigeria's economy and the international partnerships, as well as the President's commitment to it.
We're extremely delighted to hear from, becoming a real global black spot, the Gulf of Guinea, that it's almost is virtually zero now, zero piracy. President Muhammadu Buhari also attaches great importance to securing the Gulf of Guinea and making it a zone to promote trade. It's reckoned that the resources of the oceans, we still haven't even started to tap and to benefit from those resources.
For the United States government, Obangame exercise is part of a long-standing comprehensive strategy by the U.S. government to provide collaborative opportunities among African forces and international partners to address maritime security.
We don't just need African solutions to African problems. We need African solutions to global problems. And the issues that we're facing today and that we're dealing with in this exercise, counter-narcotics, piracy, IUU, these are global issues and global problems, and they don't just hit the Gulf of Guinea, they hit East Africa, they hit the Caribbean. And one of the great things about exercises like this is you learn quickly where the integration isn't happening and how you can work together to integrate, because only when we work together as governments and within governments can we really work on these thorny issues.
There are 33 nations across 4 continents participating in this year's exercise. Obangame is a brainchild of the U.S. Africa Command, part of the U.S. Naval Forces Europe and U.S. Naval Forces Africa, which for more than 80 years has forged strategic partnerships with allies and partners to preserve security and stability.
To all the stories now, U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken is in Israel on the second leg of his 3-nation Mideast tour. He has called on Israel and Palestinians to calm tensions as he visited today during the worst violence in years, reaffirming a long-stalled peace vision as the only path forward. While focusing a center on a Palestinian gun spree outside a synagogue that has put Israel on high alert, Mr. Blinken also cautioned against any celebration or avenging of such bloodshed. His visit comes after 7 people were shot dead in an attack on Friday by an East Jerusalem man who was himself killed by police. A day earlier, Israel carried out an unusually deep raid on the Jenin refugee camp in the occupied West Bank, killing 10 residents, most of them gunmen. At least 35 Palestinians have died in violence surging since the 1st of January. The World Health Organization, WHO, says COVID-19 still remains a public health emergency of international concern. According to the Global Health Agency, the pandemic is likely in a transition point that continues to need careful management to mitigate the potential negative consequences. It is 3 years since the WHO first declared that COVID represented a global health emergency. More than 6.8 million people have died during the outbreak, which has touched every country on earth, ravaging communities and economies.
The committee has advised me that in its...
Meanwhile, China says there are no new prevalent strains of Omicron detected in the country, with the BA.5.2 and BF.7 substrains remaining the 2 dominant causes of COVID-19 infections across the country. The just concluded Chinese New Year holiday saw a mass migration of millions of citizens across China after the further easing of COVID-19 control policies. When asked whether the travel rush during the week-long holiday could lead to the spread of of any new variants. The Chinese Center for Disease Control and Prevention said up to now it hasn't found any new prevalent variants. Chen Cao, research fellow at National Institute for Viral Disease Control and Prevention under the China CDC, told a press conference in Beijing, quote, "Our monitoring results have shown that this round of infections is still dominated by the BA.5.2 and BF.7 subvariants. We haven't detected any other new subvariants." Away from the pandemic, several hundred people gathered as snow fell in the Indian Kashmir's main city of Srinagar to mark the end of Congress party leader Rahul Gandhi's foot march that he began at the southern tip of the country 135 days ago. The Bharat Jodo Yatra, or Unite India March, was aimed at boosting the 52-year-old's popularity, but Congress still faces an uphill battle against Prime Minister Narendra Modi's Bharatiya Janata Party (BJP) that appears poised to sweep the general election due next year. Leaders from half a dozen opposition parties attended the rally, the largest opposition gathering in India's erstwhile Muslim-majority state that Modi's government reorganized into 2 federally administered territories in August 2019. Several other opposition leaders failed to make it to the rally because flights into Srinagar's airport were cancelled due to the heavy snow. The Nehru Gandhi dynasty has controlled the Congress party for decades, but has also overseen its recent decline. Rahul Gandhi resigned as Congress president after the last election. Security arrangements had been reinforced in Kashmir ahead of the rally, with armed police sealing off all roads leading to the cricket stadium where the rally was held. And one of 2 foreign men swept up in an avalanche in Japan while back-country skiing in the central prefecture of Nagano and found without vital signs today was U.S. professional skier Cale Smain. A Nagano police spokesperson said the men were among 5 foreigners engulfed in Sunday's avalanche, which took place at about 2:30 p.m. on the eastern slope of Mount Hakuba, Norukura, in the ski resort. Police declined to confirm details about the men, who media said were from Austria and the United States. But outdoor magazine Mountain Gazette said in its online edition that the U.S. skier was 31-year-old Cale. Police had earlier said that the 5 men were skiing in 2 separate groups on the mountain, which was about 8,100 feet high. The other 3 skiers had climbed down the mountain on their own on Sunday. Weather authorities had issued an avalanche warning for the area following heavy snowfall in the past few days. And Japanese avant-garde artist Yayoi Kusama is receiving a lot of attention on the streets of Paris, London, New York and Tokyo for her signature polka dots and her human-like robots. The 93-year-old Kusama, called her Princess of Polka Dots by fans, is collaborating with Louis Vuitton once again. To celebrate, the global brand installed numerous polka dots and other eye-catching designs on their flagship stores around in the world. In addition, in Paris, a giant inflatable mannequin depicting the artist appeared on top of their store. In London, New York and Tokyo, a human-like Yayoi Kusama robot can be seen, complete with moving eyes. Fittingly, she has a paintbrush in her hand. This year, the Louis Vuitton and Yayoi Kusama collections will be done in 2 installments. Drop 1 was revealed in January, and Drop 2 will be available by the end of March. Kusama, who came to New York City in 1953 at the age of 27, made a name for herself by painting motifs inspired by hallucinations of flashing lights, dots and flowers, influenced by the works of Andy Warhol and Clay Oldenburg. During that time, media and fans started calling her the Princess of Polka Dots. Kusama currently lives in Japan, but her art is recognized around the world.
Her eyes are moving from one side. Just it looks like that she's like a human being.
I've never seen anything that looks so real. I think it's great marketing, and I think think it just changes the brand for Louis. You know, it brings it to a different level.
We'd been to Central Park, coming over to go to Tiffany's, and we saw this in the window, so we thought we'd seen it. Seen it on Instagram, so we thought we'd come and see it in real life.
I was talking with my husband about this. I admire and I love this collab, but actually I love so much the classic model of the brand.
It's lovely. Well, who doesn't love an icy swim? Perhaps those of us in warmer climes. Well, I guess it's still a bit difficult to understand why they do it, but here goes. Temperatures were a mere 3.5 degrees Celsius, but that did not stop the over 1,000 people attending the 52nd edition of the Danube Winter Swimming in Newburgh, southern Germany, on Saturday. Dressed in wetsuits, costumes, participants from all over Germany, neighboring countries as well, including France, the Czech Republic. They conquered 4 kilometers, 2.5 miles of icy water with their rafts. Some of the rafts carried political messages, while one had been crafted to resemble the famous car of the animated show, The Flintstone, much to the delight of spectators who watched the swimmers go by from the riverside. The event started in 1969 to test the preparedness of the local water rescue service and has been repeated annually since then, bearing a 2-year pause. This was during the COVID-19 pandemic. .5 degrees. That's amazing. That's our show this evening. Thank you for watching. I'm Millicent Walker. Bye for now.